Hey y'all, this is Lisa Van Ness of Van Ness Pens.
And this is Joe Crace from the Gentleman Stationer. Welcome back to another episode of On the Paper Trail. Hey everyone, and welcome back to episode 3 of On the Paper Trail, where we are back from 10 days of snow and ice and also back from Jacksonville, Florida, where we visited Pilot Pens USA. And we'll talk a little bit about that today. How are you doing, Lisa?
I'm doing well. I'm glad the temperatures have risen and that new merchandise has arrived. So,
I know we were both getting worried there for a little bit, given the below sub-freezing temperatures. This is actually the first evening where it's been above 48 degrees in our warehouse and office because our heat's been off for 10 days. So it's just not been a fun experience for anybody. A lot of people in Nashville here have been without power, but it seems like everything's getting back under control. So it's good to be able to record again when we're with semi decent weather, and we've got a lot to talk about because there's been a lot going on since episode 2.
there has. There has.
But before we get into that, what are you using tonight?
I have gotten attached to a Pilot Grande. Recently, it's become one of my favorites. I keep it inked all the time here at the store. I'm actually using Kujaku ink in it because I like Pilot ink. And this is a really nice size. I'm digging it. My other pen I'm using today is my Twisby in a fine nib. These are the two that I'm using this week right now. And then paper-wise, you can always find a Midori somewhere in my life. And today
Mhm.
I'm using this little Midori. They call it a stand. And it's actually one of my favorites because I like this pattern. Can you guys see that? It's kind
It's
of
a
like little
really
crisscrosses.
it's a reticle grid. So
Love it.
that's a cool Midori. I've not seen that before actually, and it stands up.
Well, I like it because I can do it horizontal, and as a lefty, this comes in really handy.
Hmm.
So, what about you? What you using?
Despite having visited Pilot, I am using a Uni mechanical pencil. This is a Kurutoga Dive. I actually took a trip to New York City to go to the New York Now and Shop Object trade shows in New York. And when I'm traveling like that, I really rely heavily on mechanical pencils and gel pens, fine liners, and things like that. So I took this Kurutoga Dive. It's a fancy mechanical pencil. This is the one you brought me back from Japan, and it's capped. So you can actually, when you cap this pencil, the thing with the dive is that the lead not only rotates like the typical Uni Kurutoga, but it also auto advances. So you don't have to keep clicking the mechanical pencil to extend the lead. It's got two different mechanisms in it, and it works really well. You can set the length of the lead on the barrel, and it's a really fun mechanical pencil. Unfortunately, these are really, really, really hard to find in the US, and you have to either order them direct from Japan or you have to have a connection in Japan or have somebody go to Japan and get it for you.
And Matthew made that discovery. He was going crazy, like, here, you have to. So,
So the other thing that I've been using is this Nolte notebook. I believe you had one earlier that you were talking about on your Instagram live, but it's called a free log, and I've not used Nolte paper, and you can see the sticker that I put on this thanks to Lisa Olive
so
Octopus
cute.
gave me that. But it's got this really tiny 3 millimeter dot grid paper in it that I absolutely love. It's a slicker paper, fairly thin. I would say it's probably 60-gram paper, but it handles ink really well. I mean, I've had to really push it to even get it to start to feather or bleed. Um, and it's an undated planner format. It's got some fun indexing materials at the front. They're really nice, and I enjoy the paper. Nolte's one of those brands that you also don't see much over here.
I absolutely fell in love with it over there. And then a lot of the planners, the dated planners, they came in Nolte, and I was hooked.
Yeah, I got to see some of a couple stores had Nolte planners in New York, but it was whatever was left from the dated planner rush at the end of the year. And I mean, they've got all kinds of, not very expensive dated planners. I think they're regarded somewhat as a commodity brand in Japan, but they make them in all sorts of sizes, like B5, A4, A5. You can get they're almost like Daytimer, like the Daytimer of
Mm-hmm.
Japan. You remember Daytimer from,
Mm-hmm.
when you used to be able to buy planners everywhere. It's kind of got that similar look, but they also make these free log notebooks that are really nice.
I'm pretty happy with it. And we both do have them on our website. So you can
Yes.
pick them up. And these are an A5 size.
We
Uh,
found a source to procure them after Lisa brought them back. We both liked them, and we you can now get them in yellow and blue, and they're nice notebooks. They're in B6, which is another size that I know a lot of people are looking for. In terms of restocks, I know it's restock season. I've been doing trade shows. We've both been wrangling packages. Do you have anything fun to share with everybody?
I do. But first, let's just go ahead and throw it out there that we've already been ordering 2027 planners. The deadline has
I
already passed for travelers.
Ooh, yeah. That's not good to hear because I may need to. I think I ordered mine, but I may need to put my order in.
Then I have the new Twisby. It's actually really good looking, and it's kind of got a gray blue. It just came out. You can see the copper to it. It's actually a good color. I'm glad to see them doing some color variations within their lineup instead of just the solids.
Mhm.
And then I have this Opus 88, and it's called Catwalk. And right in here is a cat paw. It's just hard to see it. And it is their classic filling system. So restocks and that new little item, and then a new color from Venta. Can you guys see this? It's got
Oh, that's
sheen to
fun.
it. It's red with a sheeniness to it. Green gold sheen. Anyway, what about you?
Fun.
What's new?
So we have, and I think we talked about last time, we have the Canopus paper from Yamamoto. I think we've still got some of that left. That sold really quickly. We do have the Page M, the Nolte free log notebooks that we talked about. But the big news, we did another run of our cloud rickshaw cases that we did with Nick Dominguez, who's a member of our local pen club. I can't remember if I've previously talked about this on the podcast, but he drew these designs with chroma shading, multi shading fountain pen inks. I believe he used troublemaker inks, three different colors. There's a brown, there's a green, and there's a purple. So we've got multiple cases. We have the Sinclair, the Fillmore, and now we have koozie rolls. So we have pen rolls as well. A lot of people were asking about when those would be restocked, and we do have them. And we'll talk about this at the end, but I'll try to bring them if I've got extra stock to the Los Angeles Pen Show at the end of the month when we're there. But all the restocks from year end and first of the year are now starting to come in. So everybody who's been asking about, when is XYZ going to be restocked? It's currently happening. This is one of the weird things about being a retailer that you don't know until you're actually a retailer, because I'm relatively new to this, and it's just kind of the timing that there's a period between the end of the year and the holidays and mid-January when you are really low on inventory because nobody's shipping anything and you've just finished the holidays. And now all that's kind of changing and everything's rolling in, and I've got boxes stacked almost to the ceiling.
I mean, a lot of these companies closed like from the week of Christmas until this like first or second week of January, and then they had bad weather. So, and we had bad weather, so things were stuck and delayed, and now things are arriving.
So keep your eye on our respective websites for new arrivals. I mean, I try to send stuff out every Thursday and list stuff on the blog, but it's kind of hard to keep up with everything because February is a really busy month for that stuff. As we learned when we visited Pilot, because we got to watch Pilot fulfill orders and we saw the volume of stuff that they are in the process of shipping out. Lisa, do you want to take the lead on kind of talking about our pilot trip and how this all came about?
I think it was what I expected, but bigger. Like I went into it. They do some manufacturing of the G2s here in the US. So that was kind of cool to see them putting the packages together. Um, And then we got to see some behind the scenes of things that may or may not make it into the US. That was kind of cool. And honestly, I thought there would be more of the potentials that could be coming in, but we had a great time. We probably spent an hour just looking at potential product launches, right?
I think we kind of hijacked their meeting agenda because we went in there and I think we were supposed to have an orientation meeting. So to back up a little bit, this came about. We were invited to take this trip down to Jacksonville to meet with the Pilot USA team and take a tour of their headquarters. And thank you very much. We're going to thank Casey and Bill and Jacqueline and Sean and Zori and everybody who met with us and took time out of their day because we were really there almost all day to meet with everyone. Thanks for making this possible. It's not something that I don't know you often get to do, but it was one of those once in a lifetime things. Um, but yeah, they had this big agenda and schedule all set out for us, and I think we got caught up in the
They should have
product
known better
sample
if I was
the,
around.
the product sample room where we were in there for about an hour and a half or so, just going over everything. Why is this not coming to the U.S.?
We had a lot of great discussions, and I learned so much about things like the number of SKUs of an item that have to be able to be sold to bring in. So, and there were several products that I think you and I like that they've chosen not to, and they gave us excellent reasons. It was just really interesting to hear what their reasons were and how it works, because there is a certain amount of guarantee that they have to spend the kind of money it takes to get these products here. You forget how big, maybe how small we are, or how big the big box stores are until
It,
you're in there.
that's such a huge part of the American market. And I think that was my biggest takeaway from the trip, that the fine writing portion that we all geek out about and that we love so much is really a tiny portion of the US market for what they consider stationery. Um, I don't know that anyone can really comprehend the volume of G2s that are made just in the US at the pilot facility, not even counting those that are imported from Japan. The volume of pens and gel pens that are sold to Walmart, Amazon, et cetera, far outstrips any demand that the high end stationery community can create. And to support a large business like Pilot, I mean that is just what drives the decisions, and it's like that for any company. That's not unique to Pilot. There's just not enough demand for the fine writing stuff for what we consider fine writing in Japan. There's much more demand there for it.
I think the G2 and the frictions are even in the US, they are the driving force for the everyday writing instruments in the US as far as Pilot's concerned. And I learned a lot about the frictions. The friction erasables was something that was new to me, and I guess I should have known those already, but I tend not to be a highlighter, and now I may have to delve into that.
You were really interested in the frictions. What about the friction pens kind of drew you in there?
I think, one, as a left-handed person, pencils were always my enemy, and you would always run over you would always have gray on your hand. And the frictions, I didn't have that problem when I was writing with them. It just kind of freed me to have that erasable aspect without having lead all up and down my hand. And that is such a lefty thing. And I was just like, this is cool. And so I was just like playing with it because I realized I wasn't going to have lead all up and down my hand. And so I'm easily entertained. It was kind of like, think of it going to a bookstore. That's exactly what it was like. And just try all the things and read through it a little bit, smell the markers. And yes, they had the old smell good markers.
Well, you did. We got souvenir giant Pilot permanent markers. I'm not sure. Like, do you have yours handy? Because those
I've
things are
been
like
using it, so it's over in the packing area.
those things are like the size of a mini can of spray paint. And I'll drop a link to a photo. I've taken a photo of one, and think I had it on the blog. But they were huge, and we got them back on the airplane, which I was kind of surprised we were able to do. Like, I had mine in my carry-on bag, and I was half expecting them to take it away from me, but they didn't.
No, instead I had to be patted down, my shoes taken off.
But they didn't take your marker.
They didn't take my marker, but they questioned the nibs on my pens. They questioned my clothing. They made me take my socks off, but they didn't question the giant
Can
smell
of
good
spray paint.
marker. Okay.
Well, the popularity of that type of stuff, like the permanent markers, the popularity of the friction line really surprised me, and that's hugely popular in Japan. I believe in Japan it's the planner pen of choice, and it's actually what isn't it actually what Hobonichi designs their books, their paper to work best with in Japan? I've heard that somewhere that that
I'm not
factor.
a Hobonichi person. I wouldn't know the answer to that
It,
question, but I bet you soon we'll get an answer. Somebody will tell us.
If somebody should write in and let us know that. I've heard that maybe it's not Hobonichi, but at least one of the planner companies actually designs their paper to work with the friction, because the friction's a very popular pen for planner purposes in Japan, and it makes sense because you can erase the ink and move stuff around. But I think it's catching on here as well, and they're bringing in to the extent I've seen the friction line expand. I've followed it a little bit closer than you maybe, but it's definitely expanded over the past couple of years in terms of the highlighters and the fine liners and the standard gel pens and stuff like that.
Well, now it's on my radar, and I have many of them ordered because I've been
Well,
playing with mine here.
I've actually been using mine a fair bit. I've got a friction multi pen that I've had for a while, and I've actually been using it as my planner pen in my Wonderland, and it works really well on that paper.
I'm a huge G2 lover, and G2 is also in their top sellers. I take that G2 refill that I love and put it in all kinds of pens whenever I'm not using a fountain pen. So I was
Mhm.
excited to see the G2 process. It was really interesting to also see the packaging systems that are unique to larger brands,
Mhm.
and also how small the fountain pen portion is.
The fountain pen portion is very small, and it was kind of shocking that I don't know, one or two people handle pretty much all the fountain pen orders for the most part. And I think a lot of people know that it's the high end fountain pen market is not a huge part of the market here in the US for any segment of the pen community. When people ask, why don't we get XYZ from Japan? It's because there's not as much demand as we in the community would like to think, and it limits what brands can bring over.
And they did say when we touched the CEO, he did say it's grown leaps and bounds in the last few years. And then there is one lady that handles ordering the products, and she said it has grown as well. And so that was a good thing to hear that the community, the fountain pen community, is still growing. It's not because people come in the store and often ask me, is it a dying art? And I would say it's not dying, but there's just less places that sell it.
It's definitely not dying out. There's definitely a lot, just from our own experience, there's definitely a lot of renewed interest in it. But at the same time, the fountain pen's no longer the equivalent of a laptop, in that we're never going to go back to a time when everybody has to have a pen for work, which was what was driving it so much back in the golden age of vintage writing instruments. And it's going to be a hobby or an enthusiast driven product segment going forward, which will necessarily limit how big it gets. But all in all, a very fun trip. Look for a lot of friction pens. Where the end result is that Lisa and I are getting out of fountain pens entirely, and we're going to go. We're going to
Except
become
for April Fool's Day.
full time pilot friction retailers, and we'll be bringing the entire friction line in from both Pilot USA and Pilot Japan. So you should look for that in the future.
I mean, we
But
did see things that are about to come in that are nice also. Like we saw some good things that are coming up in the pipeline for the fountain pen community, which we're both excited about.
mhm.
So, um, but we're, not allowed to discuss those things.
Yeah, so we did see some things that are exciting and that will be unveiled in the future from Pilot as they announce their 2026 products. But we can't talk about those. There's a lot we really want to be able to talk about that we can't, which was fun too to see some of that. But we'll have a video. We did film a little bit outside of Pilot headquarters, and we'll try to add, if you're watching this on YouTube, at the end of this video, I'm going to try to splice in some of the video footage from Pilot headquarters so y'all can get a sense of kind of the size of the operation. We did have permission to shoot the video. The video wasn't surreptitious or hidden. Everything was vetted with the management team. So you'll get a little bit of video. We were not allowed to film inside. That was the only restriction. So we couldn't take any pictures or film any video. So I'm sorry about that, but just skip to the end of the video after you're done listening to the podcast if you're watching this on YouTube, and you can see what Pilot's facilities in Jacksonville look like. So for this next segment, we're going to be talking about 12 pen person questions. These questions are part of a trend in the online stationery world where bloggers, retailers, sometimes normal hobbyists take these little questionnaires answering questions about their stationery usage and how they personally enjoy the hobby. This particular one, 12 pen person questions, was started by a friend of ours, Lisa at Olive Octopus, and I'll post a link to the blog post that she did with the full array of 12 questions. We're just going to answer 3 of them today. Answering all 12 of them, both of us, it's going to be beyond the scope of the time that we've got available for this episode. If you want to read my full 12 question answer, I did do a blog post on them. We may try to answer a few more in a future episode, but these are the ones that we had the most fun discussing when we were prepping the episode. So the first one we're going to answer is question 2. What is something you want to understand better or develop more informed opinions about in the stationery world?
I think for me, I would like to better understand the junk journaling category and washi tape. I am a true journaler and planner. Like, I am not all about the accessories, but I really think everything I see is so gorgeous. And all these people put all these cool things together. I see them when they get done, it looks so good. And they just have all their little bits and bobs from their day that they've thrown in there or from their weekend adventures. And I think this looks so cool. When I do it, it looks like it should belong in a trash can. And so I'd really like to understand it better. And I honestly would like to take a class on this type of thing. At some point, I'll find some class I can take, probably not at a pen show, but at an alternative kind of fest, and learn a little bit about how it works. Because I would like to be able to incorporate some of the things I gather when I'm traveling. You end up with these little entry tickets or things like that, and I'm like, well, I just throw them away. I could put them in something, but then when I just stick them everywhere, this turns out ugly. I feel like that washi tape, I have learned how to use it a little bit as an accessory, but I honestly think I love seeing it, and I keep buying it, and then I just use it as a trim at the top and bottom of my pages. So I feel like I'm missing something because I just love to look at it. And now I am like, somebody needs to show me how to really work this stuff. So I would like to understand it better.
I
How
think
about you?
that's similar to my answer. And my answer is more that I want to learn, like, a lot of this stuff, like you're talking about, the washi tape and the accessories, and even a lot of the different types of pens and different types of ink. I'd like to learn more about how these are used in people's everyday life and how people actually incorporate them into their everyday routine. Because, say, for example, Japan has a much more analog focused culture where stationery plays a larger role in your actual everyday life. You keep a paper planner. A lot of people keep a paper planner. People use this stuff much more. And I'd also like to learn more about how people are using these, and working these products into their everyday routines and their everyday practices. Cause it's fascinating to me. I mean, when I did my blog post on this, I wrote about the panel that you hosted in San Francisco, in which we had vendors and makers from different parts of the world, and they were all talking about how the type of paper in their respective markets is different from anywhere else because people use it differently. And that was really, really interesting to me. So especially the countries where these products are from, I love learning and hearing about how the products are used by the people who make them, and what these products were intended for, because that here they kind of appear at pen shows and in stationery stores sometimes out of a void, and people kind of pick them up and then try to figure out a way to use them. But it would be interesting to hear, like, what was this created for? How do people use washi tape every day, for example? Um, so I think my answer is a little bit similar to yours. Okay, so the other one we're going to do is question 4, and this was a fun one. There are now 25 hours in a day. You have an extra hour available to use however you like, as long as pens or stationery are involved. How do you spend your hour? Okay, go.
So I used to go to Reddit and go to this creative writing prompts category. Have you ever been in there?
I don't think so.
So
No.
they would have these contests. And this has been years ago, and I think I'd like to go back to doing it. And it would be like 2 hours, and it would be something ridiculous, like totally something falls from space, and you have to, and it would be a 2 hour thing, and then there would be a winner, as in everybody voted for their favorite. And I used to love to do that, basically a timed writing prompt with a
Hmm.
group of people. I loved doing that. And, as the store grew, I couldn't do it as much, and now I don't ever do it. But I would go back to doing that creative writing prompts on a timer situation. I greatly enjoyed it.
That's fun. I've not heard of that, and that's actually a really good idea.
I think so too. And when it's a group atmosphere, you get to go, oh, they did such a great, when you're in school and they'd be like, you have 1 hour, and you're like, ah.
So would you post your writing in response to the prompts
You
in
did?
in the
Yeah, I had
comments?
a different
Okay.
account because people don't need to find that. But it made your brain work in such a different way. You
Mhm.
kind of had some different pathways going, and just, I loved it. And I, I need to do more of that.
Back when Reddit was fun.
I mean, I would guess it was 2020 even was probably the
Yeah.
most recent that I did it. Um,
And I'm sorry, Fountain Pen Reddit. I'm joking with you. I'm
no,
not trying
no,
to be
it
mean.
it can be a good place and a bad place.
But
The,
that is like that's the positive. That to me is like a positive use of social media.
hmm
It's kind of that's kind of what these communities and services should. That's the type of thing that they should be used for, because that's a fun,
And
positive
sometimes it would
way
just
to
be a random
interact.
person. Like I could come up with an idea that's ridiculous and say, "Hey, let's all write about it," and 10 people might, and 100 people might. So I don't know. I enjoyed it, and I could do that for an hour for sure.
I mean, I think with mine too, I would definitely use it for some sort of creative work. When I was younger, I did do a lot of creative writing. I did a lot more visual art than I do now. I still play music a little bit, but I kind of I feel like I have this gap in my life where I'm not doing enough to exercise that creative side of my brain. And I'd probably try to do some sort of drawing or creative writing and finish up some of the projects that I've had going on for far too long that I haven't finished, but that still kind of take up space in my brain, and that I'm working on subconsciously, but I just need to get it out there on the page. I think the entire hour would go to that.
And honestly, an hour is not really that long when you sit down and start doing the journaling and the
Mm-mm.
planning. You know,
No, and it really is. It's kind of shocking that we're around this stuff. We're around this stuff all day, and between the two of us, it doesn't seem like we have much time to actually use it as we probably should, or at least use it in the way that we want to use it.
yeah, I do morning and evening just a little bit, and I think I said it in the last, did I say, I, I get anxiety if I don't write every day.
if you don't journal every day.
Yeah.
I think that may have been from episode one.
I left my
It-
notebook at your store.
Lisa's journal was snowed in at the shop while she was here in Nashville,
I had
and
to go
she
out to my frozen car and find a loose notebook.
loose leaf paper. Lisa was reduced to journaling on loose leaf paper at night. Which, hey, look, it's resourcefulness.
Yeah.
You use the stationery that you have at the time.
Mhm.
That's the lesson we can take away from that. All right, so question 6, and this is one that I think you practice handwriting regularly, don't you?
Mhm.
So the question 6 is, how do you feel about your handwriting?
In the morning, it starts out fine, and by the evening, it looks horrible, and nobody should be able to have to read it. Um, I don't know if that goes back to my professional days because as a social worker, we would have to handwrite everything. So by the end of the day, you're writing notes so fast, it
Hmm.
just gets really ugly and messy. And so I think when I'm intentional, my handwriting is nice. When I am in a hurry or just taking notes to accomplish a goal or to, move on to a next task, my handwriting is atrocious. How about you?
I I don't know. I've kind of had this like love-hate relationship with my handwriting. I always thought through college I had fairly decent handwriting, even though, throughout elementary school, I was actually almost failed in handwriting, my, handwriting grade in elementary school because I didn't hold my pencil the correct way. I think I wrote something on this years ago. My handwriting was fine. It was perfectly legible. It looked nice, but they gave me, C's in handwriting because I had a weird grip with the pencil, and they said that it would do all this parade of horribles, cause my hand to deform, and my handwriting would be illegible for the rest of my life, even though it wasn't. It was a very strange experience, and eventually when I started using fountain pens, I couldn't hold my pencil or hold my pen that way anymore because it messed with how the nib was contacting the paper. So I changed it, and then my handwriting got worse because I was changing the entire way that I wrote. And it's taken some work for me over the past decade or so to get it back to what I would consider to be decent looking. But like you said, I'm an attorney by profession, and a lot of times we're annotating documents and we have to write really small, which isn't great for your handwriting. So I've moved to kind of this hybrid cursive print style that can be hard for people other than me to read, but it's what I use for my day-to-day stuff. When I'm intentional in my journal and I'm writing my traditional cursive, I'm pretty happy with my handwriting, but my everyday handwriting probably isn't great. A lot of y'all probably couldn't read it if I wrote something out in the way I take notes for myself. It's just not very intentional. It's kind of that, professional, what I'll call professional scrawl, but I'm working on it.
I think
So
practicing a little bit every day and being intentional when we're doing our journaling, instead of just scribbling the journaling, just being intentional, that's helps.
well, when you were talking about how you set up your notebooks, now you have a notebook that you use to practice your handwriting. How do you practice your handwriting? Do you just write the alphabet? Do you have
No, I have
exercises that you do?
quotes. I have quotes I'll hook on to someone, even in social media. There's one that we follow, and I actually do rewrite his phrases. And he teaches English, I think,
Oh,
right?
it's Berber English,
Yes.
the English pronunciation.
So I will actually use
Figure.
his various versions of a phrase, and I will rewrite those. And I intentionally make sure that I keep the height and the spacing of my letters equal. So the big thing is keeping the height and space distance between each letter the same will get you an improvement. Because a lot of times we go big, little, big, little, or scribble, and our E looks terrible, and then the next E barely can tell if it's an A or an E. So if we consciously make an effort to have correct spacing in between, we're going to see some improvement. So I will take those things, or I'll take phrases that are, part of my quiet time, um, or my meditation. I will take some of those and then rewrite them if it's something that sticks with me. I'll do songs. Um, I have certain songs. I have a couple of Dolly Parton songs that I have rewritten several times. Um,
We'll link Lisa's playlist in the show notes.
um, so, those are the kind of things, certain things that bring you joy. So, Eleanor Roosevelt phrases, I read a lot of hers. So, but it's just being intentional and spacing, just really reworking your muscle memory.
Hmm. And I think when people run into problems with their handwriting, a lot of times it's that they don't give themselves that space, that the handwriting, at least with my own handwriting, it gets compressed. And I start,
Hmm.
I don't have enough loops, I don't have enough space in the loops of my letters, and everything kind of runs together.
I mean, that goes
At
back
least
to the
that's,
speed and these, we'll see, even the page M, the amount of spacing that's between these is really kind of nice. I think that's why I also like this, is
mhm,
because the spacing is such that it gives me a guide going both directions.
mhm.
Um, so that you can see, because sometimes the dots are too far apart, or they're, they just, I don't know, this one works for me. I wish they did it in a larger
Mhm.
format, but
Well, those are the three pen person questions that we chose to talk about. So this will just give you all a little bit of an example of what the exercise is like. I'd encourage anybody who spends a lot of time with stationery, and especially if you're deep into this hobby, to do one of these questionnaires, because it really does make you a little bit more intentional. And it caused me to think kind of, why am I doing this? Like, what am I getting out of this? What's my why that I'm spending all this time and money and energy on this hobby and this thing that we all love so much, but why are we doing it? And answering these questions definitely gets you thinking, and it gets you some insight into the reasons behind what you're doing, which I've always found kind of fascinating with this stuff. It was some things surprised me.
I think this really ties into why we wanted to do the podcast in the first place. What's our why?
Why are we doing this to ourselves?
I mean, we're already writing and we're already talking about it with one
Hmm.
another. Why not? And then we already behind the scenes talk about the stationery, the
Hmm.
newest thing, the newest ridiculous thing. So why not have a conversation with other people about it?
And big props to Lisa for coming up with this exercise, Olive Octopus, because this was I mean, it's not easy to come up with stuff like this. I mean, these are really deep, thoughtful questions that do a really good job of kind of getting to the heart of the matter on a lot of the reasons why we love analog stuff so much. That brings us to segment 4, which is our customer and reader questions for the week. Lisa, why don't you take the lead on this? Because I think this is the first question that we're going to answer is the question that you got, and it deals with appraising and then selling pens.
So first, let me say that it must have been the bad weather that caused this. I think I had 4 emails in one day, and I'm pretty sure everybody dug through their their junk drawers when they were stuck at home. And then they decided that they would send me pictures of some pens in terrible shape and some pens in great shape, and want me to guide them in valuing them or appraising them in some way. So I'm going to take the Pelican Toledo as an example. There was
I'll say I would love to have found a Pelican Toledo in my junk drawer.
This one had a silver overlay and it was numbered. And he asked for guidance and he did send me somewhat decent pictures. The thing is, there's more than one Pelican Toledo style that was made. And it's impossible for me to value it just looking at a couple of pictures because I don't know the condition. We don't know what the nib looks like in person. Just because they say they didn't use it that much, that means something different to everyone. So really setting a value in this situation wasn't easy, but my go-to is usually go to eBay and take a look at what's already been selling that's identical to yours. It's from the same series. If it's silver versus gold, look at those things and look at the condition that they give it. And that is how you're going to have a general idea of the value of the pen. The other thing is who you're selling it to if you're wanting to sell it versus just pass it on to your children. If you're wanting to sell it, the person that's buying it may very well be a reseller and they're going to want to make money. So you're not going to get the full value of what you think the pen should be. Your pen that you bought may not be worth as much as you think it should be. That is very
It,
common to hear.
and it's a lot of times too, one kind of a finer point to make. A lot of times I hear people confused because they'll say this pen is listed for X on eBay. Don't look at what the pen is listed for. Look
Hmm.
at the sell
What it's
for
sold
price.
for.
And people ask a lot on eBay. You can list something for anything on eBay, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to get that or that it's actually going to sell for that. It's pretty uncommon, especially with modern pens, unless it's something super rare like a limited edition that was unexpectedly cut short or that got really popular. It's really uncommon to make a lot of money on pens. Now there's some people who have done it with vintage, but it's not an easy thing to do. So the expectation that you can buy pens, sit on them, and then flip them for more money, that isn't really realistic.
How about you? What's your reader question?
So my reader question is similar to yours. I pulled one that's kind of a follow up, because I thought it would be the flip side, which is, where do I sell my pens? I get people coming in asking if they'll buy a pen, and if I'll say yes, I might be interested in buying it from you, but if I'm going to resell it, like you mentioned earlier, I'm going to buy it for resale, meaning I'm going to make you a wholesale offer on it because I need to make money to pay my bills if I'm going to resell it to somebody. And so if someone's not interested in that, I get asked, where do I sell my pen if I want to sell it myself? And my go-to recommendation is typically some sort of community forum, like a Discord or a Slack or Fountain Pen Reddit Pen Swap. It used to be that the go-to was Fountain Pen Network, the marketplace, and I think that may still exist in some form, but there's not a great solution outside of eBay, community forums. Everything's become fairly fragmented. Pen shows are always an option. The
Mm.
I mean, but again, at pen shows, a lot of times you're selling to retailers, and retailers or dealers or people who are looking to buy or trade pens to sell or trade them to someone else down the line. So the thing that I would communicate to people is it's very difficult to sell a pen and get what you paid for it, much less make money on the transaction just as a hobbyist. Um, I sometimes try to warn people this shouldn't really be viewed as an investment hobby. The questions on where to resell stuff, we get those a lot.
Mhm.
Um, there's just not a good answer. I would say local pen club, online pen communities, and pen forums that you're a member of. Those are the places to start. But before you do that, and before you enter into a transaction, do what Lisa said and get as informed as you possibly can about what the pen is valued at. Which means go on to eBay and check the sold transactions.
Agreed. Okay, where are we going to be next?
We are going to be, so the next time you will hear from us, if you want to come see us in person, you can come by our tables and see us at the Los Angeles Pen Show or the California Pen Show this month, which I believe, let me look up the dates. That is going to be held on
20th or
the tw
22nd.
the 20th, the 21st, and the 22nd of this month. So in about 2 weeks.
And that's at
And
Redondo Beach.
in the Marriott, the Torrance Marriott, Redondo Beach. So we will be there. Lisa will be teaching classes. And what classes are you going to be teaching at the
I'm
show?
just teaching fountain pen basics. You can find us in the bar on maybe Saturday night hanging out. I'd love to meet up with people and we can play with all the paper and ink that you guys want to.
And we'll be doing that during the day too. So we're both going to bring, I don't know, I don't know that maybe we'll do a video or something. I don't know that I've decided what I'm going to bring to the show yet. Do you have anything that you want to announce to people?
No, I will bring some like 6 ring refills, and I'll bring some samples of ink, like Sheener sets and things like that.
Hmm.
I just, You guys let us know what you want to see because we are limited on space because we do each have one table. So,
A lot of people have been asking me if I'm going to have more of the Rotor and the TGS 25. I'm trying. Those are subject to a little bit of, they're in production right now. Hopefully, I'll have them before Los Angeles, but if not, maybe in a position to take pre-orders at the show because that means hopefully they'll at least be en route to me by the show, which means if they're on the way, I'll be okay taking pre-orders. But I think I will have some of the rickshaws, the TGS Cloud rickshaws there definitely.
and I'll probably take some Lay Reyes rickshaws, but really people come to see me for ink, so I can't show up without ink.
Well, thanks to everybody who's been listening so far. We've been really pleased with the turnout from the first few episodes, and we're definitely going to press forward with this project. You'll be hearing more from us, and I think we'll probably record an episode in LA.
Hmm.
It won't be live, but it'll be the next time we're together. So we'll probably record an episode there. We'll do a recap of what's going on at the show because that's been a really good pen show. If you're in the area, be sure to stop by.
Hmm.
It's a well-run show. There's a lot of vendors and it's in a good location.
I think there's a
Um,
variety of vintage and modern. I think it's a well balanced show.
okay.
All right.
Well, thanks everybody, and we'll see you again for episode 4,
Bye,
whatever that
y'all.
is. Bye. Hey everyone, this is Joe. Welcome back. As a bonus video for you, those of you watching on YouTube, as I mentioned during the podcast, we decided to splice a little bit of the exterior footage that we shot outside Pilot headquarters. Here, I'm just going to pan the camera around and show you all what the outside of the buildings look like. Pilot's headquarters in Jacksonville consists of multiple buildings in a beautiful setting. There's a manufacturing facility, there's a warehouse, and while we weren't able to film inside while we were taking the tour for obvious confidentiality reasons, they did let us do some exterior filming of the headquarters just to show you all that it's a beautiful place. It's actually a very large facility, and we really enjoyed our time there. I really do wish I could have shown you some of the incredible things that we saw inside, but for now, I think we'll just have to give you a little bit of the idea of the scale of what we saw from the exterior. Despite it looking sunny and nice out, it was around 38 to 40 degrees while we were there, which, while better than the 17 degrees that it was at home, wasn't exactly what you might expect from Florida. But hey, it's North Florida, and thanks to Pilot and everyone there for making this such a great experience and for being such great hosts for us.